The chapter dropped just 30 minutes before my thesis progress report was due today. Honestly, I would have loved to start editing the second I got the news, but I think we can all agree that priorities exist. Plus, I had to take a family member to a medical appointment later, so if you're wondering why this is up later than usual, that's why. But putting my third world struggles aside, I'd be lying if I said today's episode was interesting. Sure, there was a revelation here and a curious interaction there, but in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that thrilling. Anyway, my job is to tell you the most interesting parts and what the summaries leave out. While I'm at it, I'll share some possible interpretations I have on who Roy's killer might be, as well as an explanation about the oaths in the series that many people overlook. So make sure to stick around until the end. Welcome to the analysis of Re0R10 Chapter 6. I know you guys are going to call me a remtard for what I'm about to say, but I don't care. I really liked the interaction between Rem and Subaru. I know right now Rem is very cold and blunt, but she was like that when she first appeared in Arc 2. The interesting thing is that while that side of her is somewhat similar to Ram's, I don't think it's exactly the same since Rem tends to be more condescending with her words when addressing Subaru. But why am I saying all this? In today's episode, Subaru felt guilty for not arriving in time to prevent Roy's death. Because with the Archbishop dead, he no longer has a way to return Rem's memories. Well, actually there is a way, but neither Subaru nor Rem feels comfortable choosing that method. I know there was a bit of a debate on Twitter about Rem's words in this part. Some said they supported how Rem expressed herself. Others said she was actually being mean, but I think you're being unfair to the girl. Rem, even though she has some memories of her past life, still doesn't know everything she originally went through with Subaru. That's why it's inevitable she ends up saying things that complicate his existence. Telling him he shouldn't feel guilty about something he couldn't verify, and that happened suddenly, isn't scolding him or mocking him. She said it so he wouldn't carry the weight of the guilt alone. But Subaru's complex about wanting to shoulder everything meant Rem had to end up telling him things that did hurt him. Like things like, "You're being selfish for carrying everything alone." If Subaru had just accepted her words without pushback right from the start, he wouldn't have had to feel so down. To wrap this up, some of you might think this is just my interpretation, but the reason I stand by this is because the protagonist himself ends up agreeing with Rem that she was right in this moment. Like I said, I know some might say Subaru only agreed with her because of his guilt, but it is precisely that feeling of guilt that Rem is trying to strip away from him. However, that's going to be an impossible task. Or do you guys seriously believe that Subaru, someone who has returned by death and is conditioned to regret every untaken possibility, do you really think he'll stop feeling guilty over the slightest thing? Anyway, changing the subject, there was a mention of Aldebaran and a justification from Subaru regarding why he doesn't reset things to save Roy. He claims he doesn't do it because he doesn't feel he has the courage to face Al again. Honestly, I don't know what to think about this part. I understand Subaru is dealing with a lot in his head right now, but personally, I would have liked a better excuse. I guess after receiving so much bad news, it's hard for Subaru to try and hype himself up right now to get the necessary determination. I think if I put it that way, I can understand it. After this, Reinhard shows up along with Betty and gives a report on the murder that just happened. I think this part is key for us to get a clear idea of who the killer is, but at the same time, I feel like the author is giving us red herrings for a revelation no one expects. Betty says the person who killed Roy must be someone who meets 3 conditions. Someone stealthy, someone with the physical strength for it, and someone with mastery over shadow magic to release him. Coincidentally or not, I think there is someone who fits these requirements. In fact, I'm talking about 2 characters. Specifically, Salem and the Great Spirit accompanying him. Salem has a broken ability, one that works better the stronger the enemy is. I don't want to spoil it, but I find it perfectly credible that he could fulfill the stealth and physical strength roles. Stealthy because we saw in the game that he could play that role thanks to a revelation there. Physical strength because thanks to his ability, he could have exhausted an already weakened Archbishop and defeated him like it was nothing. The only point that might not fit is the part about him being skilled with shadow magic, but that's where the other character comes in. It's said Salem has a Great Spirit as a companion. Not as powerful as Puck and Beatrice, sure, but at least I believe capable of dealing with shadow magic. But of course, I'm saying this assuming Roy and Salem fought. But at no point in the last few chapters is it said there were traces of combat, unlike when Al met with the Archbishop where there was confirmation of a fight. So I'm betting they simply didn't fight, and Roy went along with it while they left fake remains. Plus, another reason I believe this is because I don't feel it's Tappei's style to hype up a new character by killing off a character we have some respect for. I mean, it would be a bit bland if some random just shows up and assassinates a major enemy just to make a big impact in their introduction. So if we believe Roy is still alive, then it was Salem and his partner Puka who took care of busting him out of prison. But remember, this is just a theory of mine. I might be spouting the biggest nonsense of my YouTuber career, but it's fun to theorize with the community. But let's move on to the last part of today's episode. Honestly, it was kind of hard for me to read this scene, and that's Ram's fault. We all know here that Ram is someone who cares for Subaru and, if necessary, would give her life for him. But it's also true that when she picks on him, she can be very hurtful. And with everything going on in Subaru's mind right now, it's like the guy just doesn't have the energy to clap back. If you read today's episode, you'll see Ram didn't stop tormenting Subaru about everything bad that happened. And now that I mention this, it's funny how people crucify Rem for way less, while Ram, it seems like most people turn a blind eye. Anyway, after the rough time with Ram, where she keeps passively aggressively pointing out how useless he is, Subaru decides to tell the others about the situation with Aldebaran. Basically, he tells them how he feels regarding the betrayal and how he wants to know the circumstances that led Aldebaran to that rebellion. Then the topic of Feagoni and her attitude comes up. Subaru and Otto point out how strange it is that Feagoni apparently acted independently even though the church hadn't decided to intervene yet. And seeing that no one could give a fair judgment on her, Subaru and company decide to go visit her. And so, they arrive at the church in the capital where they find Feagoni playing with some kids. That would be all for now, but don't leave just yet. Honestly, the episode didn't excite me that much, but I'll still mention a couple of things before closing this out. First, the way Subaru and company go to visit Feagoni is very similar to how the group went to visit Melty in the game. In fact, if I recall correctly, Subaru says he also wanted to get some info out of her, and if history repeats itself, that means soon Subaru will also have a chat with Melty and Sakura. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys doesn't have much to do with the chapter, but at the same time, I feel like I can't ignore it because I've seen a lot of comments on my previous videos saying Royy might have died for breaking the oath he made with Aldebaran. You know, even though Aldebaran forbade Royy from devouring people, Royy did it anyway. Some theorize that the reason Royy died in the current arc is because the effects of breaking the agreement he made with Aldebaran had repercussions in this timeline. And while that sounds logical, I'm sorry to tell you that's not the case. Royy, in the current loop, didn't die the same way he died in the previous arc. It's said that at the end of Arc 9, after breaking the agreement, his soul was devoured by a blue flame. But here, we are told his body was dismembered. Simply put, if we adopt the theory that he died because of the agreement with Aldebaran, the way he died differs quite a bit. So how is Royy still alive if he violated an important agreement? An agreement of the same type Royy and Subaru made in Season 2. I have the explanation, but I'm warning you it's a bit complicated, so pay attention. In the world of ReZero, there are contracts, pacts, and oaths. Contracts are between two parties, like the ones mages make with spirits. Then there are pacts, which transcend lineages, like the protection of the dragon Volcanica over Lagunica through the royal family. And finally, oaths. This last one binds two people together, and specifically, it was the Curse Mark Oath, the same one Subaru used with Royy in Season 2. While it's said that breaking this oath can destroy the soul, it's also true that Subaru's authority is so superior it's capable of ignoring even oaths of this style. In fact, that's also why Petra no longer has to pay for everything she sacrificed to defeat Aldebaran. She doesn't have to pay it because Subaru's power erased what she offered. But now that we know Subaru's power is so strong that it ignores these agreements, don't you think the bet with Royy in Season 2 loses some value because Subaru was never actually at risk? I was thinking that while reading today's chapter because I felt like this was a huge plot hole. But I remembered that when the bet was made, the only reason Royy accepted the oath, even though he knew Subaru could redo things and not suffer the penalty, is because Subaru gave him his word that he wouldn't use his power for the duration of the bet. And yeah, I know Subaru had no obligation to keep his word if he didn't want to. But let's be honest, do you guys think Subaru's personality would have allowed him to go back on his word? I don't think so. And I also think Royy thought the same before accepting the contract. Why did I include all this explanation? Well, I did it to rule out that Royy died because of the oath, like some people said. But that's all for today. I hope you didn't mind how I recap the events, but since there weren't many interesting things in the episode, I had to improvise. Thanks for making it to this part of the video, and remember to leave a like and a comment. The platform really loves that nonsense.